Procrastination can end up being such a stumbling block on so many things you want to get on with in life, whether they be running a business, whether they be just doing exercise, whether they be setting a family up, anything. You can end up procrastinating, and I am #1 champion, used to be, for procrastination. But I've come across a number of techniques and tools that have helped me to kind of get over procrastination in a big way. There's a book out there called The Now Habit by Neil Fury, and in there he talks about this idea of reverse psychology. The mind is a rebellious tool. It loves rebelling. And so if you use that to your advantage, it can actually be a great tool to use. So what do I mean by this? So imagine if you set yourself up a task to do, more than likely, you probably won't do it. You'll probably procrastinate. One of my bugbears is I end up hoovering. I end up cleaning my flat instead of actually doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. So that's, as soon as I start doing that, I know, wait up, I'm procrastinating. So it's natural, you end up doing a task and you just naturally end up procrastinating. You end up stop doing the actual work that you should be doing. So what Neil Fury says, and this is something I do as well, reverse it. Instead of setting up a task that you need to do, set up playtime that you want to do instead. So instead of actually doing work in your schedule, set up a period of time where you're actually going to play instead, or rest or relax. And what you'll find is your mind will rebel. And your mind will actually end up wanting to do work in those playtimes. Strange as that sounds, the mind rebels. It's reverse psychology. The mind will actually want to do work in those periods. So that's one great tool that I've used to actually get over procrastination. Another fantastic tool that you could do, instead of looking at a task and saying, right, I've got, an hour's worth of work to do here, or 4 days worth of work to do there, just set a small bite-sized chunk of work instead. So maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of work instead. And what you tend to find is small victories lead to big victories. So if you just do 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes an hour, or whatever it ends up being, just doing small bite-sized things will make you feel good, because you're like, yes, I've cracked that out. And once you've cracked that out, you feel like doing more and more and more. And before you know it, you'll end up doing a lot of work. It's like being at the bottom of a mountain, looking right up at the top and be like, oh my God, how am I going to climb that? However, you take the first step and you focus on the first step, then the second step, then the third step, and you just focus on the little steps at a time. And before you know it, you're halfway up, you look back and you're like, wow, I've done half the mountain already. And it's the same thing with this kind of tasks or things that you have to do. And the last thing I'll leave you with is something called eat that frog. Now, the idea of eat that frog is something that Brian Tracy talks about in his book. If you do the most, not difficult, but the most scariest task first, or the one that you're kind of putting off the most, if you do that first, what you'll find is the rest of the tasks throughout the day will just become easier, because that one huge, difficult task that you don't want to do, you get done straight away, the rest of the task becomes easy.